What does world-class real estate look like to you?
It's about creating relationships,
consistent communication.
Estate agency with a great culture, who care for their people, who care for their clients, who care for their customers, without just looking at the number at the end of the commission check.
I think it's about amazing customer service.
It's about people, not property.
This episode is brought to you in partnership with Iceberg Digital.
Shane, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Looking very smart today.
Thank you very much.
I feel underdressed.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what I was going to say. You've got your hoodie on, I've got my big jumper on, and I'm thinking...
You've got your style, we've all got our own
I
style.
did say to Mark, I said, that's Shane's style, that's how he dresses, that's how he wears it. He looks fucking good doing it.
Yeah.
And that's the look, isn't it? And that's what it's about now. It's about authentic estate agency that we'll talk about, I'm sure.
And consistency. You know, that's
exactly
that's
that.
There,
Yeah.
each and every day. So, Shane, thanks very much for joining us.
Yeah.
What does world-class real estate look like to you?
World-class real estate, to me, is a commitment to excellence when it comes to service, is how I would sum that up.
Commitment to excellence. So what's the difference between excellence and average in service in your mind?
Great question. I think most service is average.
Yeah.
And that probably is where we all win, right? So like we can set our businesses up as they are, as really, when you think about the marketplace, like you shouldn't be able to come into a marketplace as a new business, independent, when there's all these corporates established and end up taking over that market share. But the marketplaces where we work in or where we operate, I noticed that was, and maybe the same in your guys' markets, is predominantly made up of good independents, and then the corporates kind of just sweeping up the rest. And so most service is average, but I think it's a UK mindset thing. I've actually got a good story about this, or two good stories about this. Typically what happens is like we do the bare minimum to not really help, but do what we need to do without getting fired in anywhere you go. And so a good example I've got of it is, like I was speaking to my guys the other day, if you go into a clothes shop here in the UK, you'll ask the question of like, oh, you haven't got it in my size. Is there any out the back? And then most of the time they go, everything we've got's there, mate.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like, and you're like, well, you've got no other inventory anywhere else. Like, there's nothing else you can do to help. And they go, no, well, everything's on the rail. And if it's not there, then we haven't got it. And that's service.
That's it, yeah.
And people expect that now. And I've spent a couple of holidays in the UAE. I don't know if you guys have been, but when you go over and experience the difference there. So just as an example, we were at a hotel in Dubai a couple of years ago, and they come around and they're giving free ice creams out. Strawberry, vanilla. But my kids only like chocolate ice cream, right? So they get to us, and I go, "Is there any chocolate in there, mate?" He goes, "Oh, no, sorry, we've only got vanilla and strawberry." I said, "Oh, not to worry, not a problem." He said, "No. Look, do you want chocolate?" I said, "Well, yeah, my kids only eat chocolate. They're a little bit fussy." He's like, "Okay, we'll go and get you chocolate then." And I was like, "Oh, all right, well, yeah, if you insist." And thought he walked off,
Feeling a bit awkward as you do.
I felt bad. I was like, you don't have to go out of your way just for us. And I thought, we'll walk off, we'll start handing ice creams out to everybody else, and he'll probably forget us by the time. That would have been fine with me. It's just what we've grown to expect. Probably within 30 seconds later, somebody else is coming over with 2 chocolate ice creams and go, "Oh, so-and-so said that you wanted 2 chocolate ice creams. There you go." And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
They've just been willing to do the thing that we asked for.
And when you break it down, it's not a magic moment,
And
really.
it's not
It felt like it because of the standard that we expect.
Unbelievable. Yeah, and a similar scenario again, ice cream again. We was in Abu Dhabi last year in the same scenario. The guy was actually from Ireland, so he's from the UK, but he ran the hotel complex. And we were walking through it the night before we was about to leave. And, you know, like as hotels have sliding walls and stuff, so they separate different sections off and you have different parts of the hotel. And one part of the hotel was like a sectioned off ice cream parlour. And the hotel where we stayed, they did like this gold flaked ice cream. And so it was a bit of a novelty thing. And the kids were like, "Oh yeah, I really want one of those before we go." But it was in the hotel in the evening. And so the ice cream shop was closed. We was looking through the window. And the guy behind us was like, "Is everything okay?" I was like, "Oh yeah, sorry, only looking through the window. We just wanted to have a look before we leave. We're going tomorrow." The kids just wanted an ice cream, but it's closed. I was like, "Don't worry about that. I'll open it up." And he opened the shop when it was lights off. Lids down, everything. And I was like, "No, it'll take me 2 minutes. I'll just open the shop." And he opened the shop up, gave them the ice cream, and was like, "Well, we hope you come back to the hotel." And I thought, that is unbelievable. That's just completely different to the environment that we operate in the UK. And so if we can take that into our businesses and agency and just think, we'll just work with the customer and think about delivering excellence for them. And what does outstanding service look like? What does average service look like? And as you said a minute ago, it's not magic all of the time. It's just, well, we'll do that little bit extra that other people aren't willing to do. And sometimes it's as easy as that to win.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's what that looks like to me.
And how can you relate that to agency? Can you give me an example of where you think your business has taken those learnings about, family, holidays, good times?
Yeah.
And isn't it interesting that you're still thinking and taking note of those customer service, because we live in a customer service industry? Can you give any examples about how you've taken that and implemented it in an estate agency so that you're doing more than the average?
Yeah, so it's every interaction, because I think you just combine those over the number of interactions you have with a client, and one moment doesn't mean that it's unbelievable and stand out, but all of the little interactions make such a big difference. So like you call the office and the way you answer the phone is, thank you for calling.
Yeah.
This is who you're speaking to. How can I help? And sometimes like it will frustrate me when I call somewhere and they'll go, hello. I'm like, hi. Have I even called the right place for one? Like, I didn't know the numbers, so I've just Googled it. So, hello.
Everyone feels awkward.
Everyone feels awkward.
Yeah.
And they're like, yep, hello. Can you hear me? I'm like, yeah, can hear you. But like, am I in the right place? So like, I wanted to avoid all of that. This is, hello, thank you for calling. So we want to work with you. Here's who you're speaking to. How can I help? Thank you for calling Harrison Wood. Shane's speaking today. How can I help? Like, that's a small thing to do, but it stops the awkwardness of, have I come to the right place?
Yep.
And as we take it through each and every single interaction, everything is done with care to the client on, remember to individualize to the person. That's a key point we'll talk about, I'm sure, but to personalize the experience and individualize it to them so they feel like you care for them. The whole business is built around, is the client going to come back because they feel like you care for them? And every interaction you have with them, you should do. We also do something called surprise and delight, which I can't remember where I stole it from, but when we set up 8-9 years ago, I was reading a book once and there was a surprise and delight element in there. And so we'll personalize. So you guys still value, you're out on the road seeing people, and that's the best part of the job, because you get to meet people that understand the business. And so we're out on the road, or I would do it at the start. That's how we started out. And I would say, Ian, lovely to meet you. And you would build rapport in a conversation. Then you might drop in something like, so one comes to mind now, a guy called Rob Kemp, who we deal with, continually deal with now, was a massive lover of cigars. And I remember walking around his house, lovely house at the time. And he's like, yeah, I've just recently got into cigars, and showing me all these different sizes. I had no idea about the cigar work, showing me all these different sizes and shapes. He goes, oh, yeah, but I really need somewhere to store them, because they need to be stored at a particular temperature and air quality and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it can't get wet. And
all stuff like that. A humidor, I think they called it. And he didn't have one at the time. And I remember leaving and so much. So the surprise and delight. So now we tell our guys, you've got X amount of budget per month on surprise and delight, and you decide who deserves it. But now, as back then, I would go out and I'd say, right, okay, well, Rob Kemp, this is a really important client to us. And the reason why we chose him on that month is because at the start, you try and give everything away for free, don't you? And it's a bit like, oh yeah, I really want this house, and it was 850 grand, probably one of the most expensive listings we had at the time. And he's like, what are your fees? And I was like, oh, well, they're this, but we'll probably do it for less if you go with us straight away. Yeah. And he was like, no. If that's what they are, that's what I'll pay. Make sure you charge your worth. And I was like, what a wonderful lesson for me to learn. The first few months of business, like just
very
charge,
powerful.
Really powerful. He ran a business, so he got it, and he was 14 years into his business. If that's what you're worth, that's what you charge. So that's what I'll pay you. And so the surprise and delight element, when I went back to the office, I said to the guys that, like, this guy's going to be a wonderful client. You could just tell the relationship was great. Ensure that this month we send him a humidor. He smokes cigars. He just got into it. Someone find it online, Amazon, whatever you need to look at, buy it and send it to him. Just bought it and send it to him. It's a few £100. And that blew his mind. Yeah. And he was like, I can't believe that you even, one, remembered, and two, were thoughtful enough to do something like that. I haven't even paid you yet. I might not pay you. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, but I know the relationship is going to be valuable enough long term. And so I want you to know that I care about the things that you've told me, particularly advice around the fees. This is me just showing you that we care. Yeah. And it's a small gesture, but thank you very much for working with us, whether you come to move or whether you don't.
Yeah, I like that. Surprise or delight.
Yeah, surprise and delight.
I have a funny thing in the morning. When I go running in the morning, I gauge the world's happiness by the morning people that I see. You've got smokers that have gone out for a fag, you've got dog walkers, and then you've got other runners or people just out, like just getting some fresh air. But I say good morning to everyone, probably a little bit over enthusiastically because I've got headphones on. So I'm like, morning! You know, it's like, oh God, it's
You're
like
a morning person.
Yeah, I'm not, but I do. My mum's Northern, so I've got that kind of, I will talk to anyone in the lift. I'm the guy having a conversation with a stranger. Yeah. But I do the first 10 and I tot it up. How many responses do I get? So I'll get a...
But some people don't say morning
Oh,
back.
worse. I'll get vocal response from normally 3 to 5, where they'll reply, morning, back.
Yeah.
I'll get 2 or 3 that just smile, just a polite British smile.
That's enough.
And then I'll get at least 2 to 4, depending on where the way of the world, where they'll just go and just look away.
As if like, what are you speaking?
Yeah,
to?
like this.
You want to come in? You want to come for a run up north, lad?
Is it, what's the level though? 40% good or bad? What's the sound?
I'd say I'd do exactly the same when I used to go running or if I went for a walk in the morning, and I would say 8 or 9 out of 10 you're getting morning back.
No, that's not bad.
And the others,
Oh,
I
that's
think, probably just haven't heard me. At least that's what I think, anyway.
Yeah.
Shows, doesn't it? But
That's a positive way to look at it. Yeah, he would have said it. He just didn't hear.
it's hard. It's a tough gig in agency though, and there's a handful, maybe 2 hands full of what I would classify as traditional estate agents that I've seen since Avocado that I'm aware of, and I was aware of your business or you individually actually before you even came over to the life cycle stuff, because I saw one of your videos when we were one of the only agents, it felt like, that were doing not property videos, because a lot of agents jumped on that, but actually doing content videos.
Yeah.
And one of yours popped up. I was like, that's fucking good, that one. I like that one. I'm going to nick that one. Because I hadn't seen a lot of other agents doing it, but yours did come across. And you don't do the volume necessarily that what Avocado do, but the ones you do are always very high level, well produced videos. So your company I've seen is one of the ones that I do respect in what you're doing. And we joked about appearance, but you've got this real identity. The brand has got an identity, and it does a lot of good volume as well. I've seen on 20A with the statistics, it does a lot of numbers. We were talking off camera about acquisition plans, growth plans. I think you said office number 4 is due to open soon.
Opening in April, yeah.
You said on the camera a minute ago, 9 or 10 years in business. What was where you were before, and what was the kind of the way that you set this culture where you are? Because it is unique in its standards, because estate agency we've mentioned is low, but is unique. You're very thorough in your process, your marketing. You kind of see that you stick to the brand stuff. Where does that all come from? What did you learn, as the origins of kind of Shane and the business that sits now?
Yeah, so we started 9 years ago in May, but before that I was in agency already anyway, so I understood the business as a whole. But I also had a side business with a friend of mine who we still work with. His name is Robbie. He runs a company called Blank Space, a marketing company. We had a business on the side where we had a lot of friends in music at the time, so we produced music videos for them. We had a bit of a clothing brand with it. It was more of like a media brand in its sense. We didn't really know what it was, but we knew we liked being creative. We knew we liked being behind the cameras. We knew we liked producing video. And so the whole content piece sort of came from that intuitively, and similar to your stuff, Ian. So thank you for the compliments in your stuff as well. And it's great. You've got a real identity in your business, but I think intuitively you kind of just know what works.
Yeah.
Can't really describe it. It's the same with a viral video. I can't just make a video and every single time it goes viral, but there's just this intuitive piece that if we did this, it just works. And that's who we are. And so I think agency probably suffers with that a little bit. We're really good at advertising the product, but not, I say in some instances, but not very good at advertising yourself.
Yeah.
Not
Advertise the house, but not the company.
And as an industry, we really struggle with that, don't we?
Yeah. Who is Avocado? Who are Harrison Wood? And the message is so inconsistent because people jump from, this looks cool today, so let's do a little bit of that. Or now everyone's doing videos like this, we should change the way that we do video. And of course, there's a bit of evolution and involvement in it. But from where I was already in that whole marketing piece sector, that just almost came naturally to me. And I wouldn't really be able to explain to anybody within the business, we're doing this for this reason, but I just knew intuitively that would work. And so the content sort of just grew off the back of that. But I knew that, you go back, 9 years ago now, it's 2016, 2017 as we were coming into it, social media was big, it was only getting bigger, and I thought, this is going to be the way. No one in our marketplace really used social media very well. They put the odd house up and was like, we've got a 3-bedroom semi for sale, and this is the front shot, and inquire here.
Yeah.
And that was it, really. It was like a newspaper advert.
That's social media still for a lot of agents.
Yeah.
and now it's like, as you guys do, it's people need to see who's behind the brand. Like, I didn't really know this, but I felt it. Like the key people of influence, people buy into the person more than they do the business. which is why any individual, like Elon's bigger than Tesla and Trump's bigger than
Branson, Virgin.
Branson's bigger than Virgin. Like the individual now always seems to be bigger than the brand, and people want to know, well, who is it behind the brand? And so I was the person who naturally was, because I'd already done it, well, the face of the business, I valued in the town, I knew all of the people, so it just came instinctively and intuitively to me. So that's how the business evolved from that aspect.
Doesn't surprise me that there's a marketing sort of media background there, because you can kind of see that with those social media clips, with those video clips.
If you're an estate agent listening to this, I want you to think about something for a second. Are you and your team busy, or are you actually being productive? Because most agencies right now are drowning in admin, juggling disconnected systems, chasing portal leads, and wondering why profits aren't where they really should be. Iceberg Digital have taken a completely different approach. Instead of selling another CRM, they've built what they call an AI operating system for estate agents, combining prospecting, marketing, CRM, compliance, even websites into one connected ecosystem. The goal? To increase your revenue per employee, because the agencies that win over the next few years won't be the ones working harder, they'll be the ones working smarter, with systems that actually do the heavy lifting. If you want to future-proof your agency instead of just surviving the next market shift, go and book a demo at icebergdigital.co.uk. That's icebergdigital.co.uk.
And now we're in like 2026 with all of this media marketing video stuff. More agents have got on board with it in their own style, in their own way. What do you think kind of comes next for a estate agency with that? Because it keeps having to layer up. Everything it does. Tech advances, social media changes. AI is obviously a big player now, so people are kind of aware of, is that authentic? Is it not authentic? Copy, I find, is a key part of that. You know, has it got dash? Someone says unlock to me, I'm just like, go away. I'm not interested.
So I to give it away.
What do you kind of see, you know, with the boots on the ground, with the volume you're doing in your agency, in our game, what might come next?
It's difficult to know, really, isn't it? Because like a couple of years ago, you think, what comes next? I think the one thing I've noticed with AI, you know, Mark talks about it a lot as well, doesn't he? Particularly in life cycle. I think there's the perception of like everything is going to change, but my view is a bit more like AI is making everything simpler, so most things can actually just remain the same. And so what I mean by that is like the business that we are in is a service-based business. We don't have a product. I mean, we sell the product, which is the house, but what we're selling is a service, right? And so if I buy an iPhone, then the experience I have with that product is the same as either of you two. The iPhone's great, it works like this, it's intuitive, it can unlock with my face, and that's my experience that everybody has. We're a service-based business, so the experience you have of that business is the service itself. How am I being looked after? How am I being cared for?
All the touch points.
All of those touch points. And so I think AI and the key role to play in marketing is probably actually more around, no debate. There's going to be technology changes and there's going to be disruption, and this is all going to make things easier, faster, smoother, quicker. But ultimately, probably to go back to the point of people care about you and it's a people business. And that's just what I think has been lost almost everywhere. I don't know what your guys' experiences are where you shop with a service or a product, but almost anywhere you go, it feels like nobody really is bothered. Nobody really cares. And as Mark says, you systemize the predictable to humanize the exceptional, whichever one way around that is. But all you need to do is, yes, we're going to make things easier and simpler with AI. So your job can be done quicker, smoother, faster. But the job you need to do is still the same as what you needed to do 10 years ago, which is help people move from here to here and show them that you care so they want to come back.
It is such an important thing for us, and we talked about it on a couple of episodes, but gearing a business around with tech, with processes, with infrastructure, non-client facing support staff, gearing that around to make sure that the most important person handles that client's experience, service, and consulting as well. We are in service, but we're also in marketing, and we're also consulting and advising. And yes, we're not a profession or we're not licensed, but we've got a lot of experience to help people really have a very stressful part in their journey in their life to be less stressful. A good quality agent.
And sometimes we undervalue ourselves with that, I think, in the industry, because it does get a bit of bad press. He's got a certain reputation. But the good agents, you know, like we're sitting around having this conversation, the people listening want to be better agents. They are the ones that, when the market is where it is at the moment, which is an okay market, I call it a normal market at the moment.
Absolutely agree.
You know, maybe prices will go up in line with inflation this year, and that's probably about normal. But that means exceptional agents can be like really, really, really good. And average agents will look average, and poor agents will probably go out of business.
Yeah.
That's the industry that we're in, really.
Yeah, I'd completely agree with you, but I think it's so much easier than what we make out. Like, I was talking to Mark about it a little while ago, and he's like, well, yeah, you're doing a good job, but you're not putting people on the moon. Like, this isn't a difficult job.
Not life or death.
No. And when you say exceptional agents, they're just exceptional people, aren't they, really? Like, the job that we do isn't difficult to train. Really, it's if you're a good person and you actually care about people and you're willing to learn and just work hard, you'll make a really good agent. Like, that's probably the basis of, maybe you guys have a different opinion, but that's probably the basis of what makes a good agent. Like, I'm a good person, my heart is clean, I mean well, and I'm prepared to go above and beyond to help people out. And you'll have a wonderful career in this day, actually, particularly, you know, in your model, in the self-employed model. If you build a little network around that, people go, Ian's the man that cares for me. Like,
It's quite interesting seeing both sides, because I did 16 years, like I said, traditional high street branches, 10 branch company, and now I see what I see helping self-employed agents. And it's very interesting to see the bit that makes the best agent is not one thing necessarily, if I view. With the avocado agent, you know, there's 40 agents, they're all very different. And the ones that are very successful are successful because their personality trait that makes them an asset to the client, they double down on. So, you know, I might have Ricky or Stu or Dan or Georgina. They're all completely different animals. One is very caring. One is very successful, hungry, driven, ambitious, not as caring, but still very, very good. One is very hyper-local, knowledgeable, super well connected, knows all the sisters. If you were to put them in an interview, probably wouldn't make a good interview, but unbelievable agent because of that wealth of local knowledge. So, and that is the people that they're getting. You know, when I say exceptional agent, I'm not referring to the brokerage, the brand. It is the individual really, really found and hone-tuned on what they're really good at and how they can kind of be an asset for the client. And with the marketing side of things, you know, with Harrison Wood, you're based in that Essex area. I've never actually been to Essex, but Essex has a reputation, right? A certain style of how it is as a culture. I don't know that. It's just because that's what's portrayed on TV shows and things like that. But I would imagine marketing, reputation and look in Essex is as important, if not more important, than a lot of other areas. So is that something that you focus on, you know, with your brand, with your people? Does everyone have to have a certain set of core values to be part of the team?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so we've really established our core values over the course of the last 12, 18 months. Hungry, humble, helpful, honor. Honor's a big part of the marketing side of things, right? So marketing isn't just what we put out on social media. It's like how you present yourselves. This is marketing for me today. Like Tom Ford said, dressing well is a form of good manners. And I adhere to that. I think it's true. And so I think, you know, we're dealing with people who are in, you know, moves aren't always fun. Moves aren't always because people want to move. Sometimes it's just circumstantial and they're quite heavy and they're stressful and life changes. And this is a really big deal. And we do it in mass, and you guys do it in mass. And because you start to do it in mass, there's that danger of losing the fact that it's just transaction and it's not a human life. And you're like, well, this is massive. Like, think about how big of a deal moving home is. It's huge. And so I think if you're portrayed a certain way, and that's the marketing and who you are is what you put out online. That's what you should put out in your offices. That's what you should put out in the way that you dress. That's what you should put out in the way that you turn up and your car's clean. That's what you should put out in the way, the pack that you leave with the client. Like, the whole piece is, this is who we are and this is what we do. And it just starts from me, really, my psyche of putting on a suit and a shirt and a tie and feeling like I'm going to work to make a difference. It just starts from that point. And, you know, I've got nothing against zip ups and hoodies, and that's your start, and it works wonderfully for you guys. maybe geographically, because that's where we are. It's sort of ingrained in my psyche. But I see a lot more people now probably going your way in, we don't need suits. Zip-ups are fine. We don't need shoes. Loafers are fine. We don't need suit trousers. Jeans are fine. Fine. Like, if that works for you, that works for you. But I'm very much this works for us. This is who we are.
And that's the same for the group.
Yes, yeah.
That is the standard. That is the bit that I respect. Because I think my old company, for example, when I left, I quit. They are that. That's how they look. And it was exactly the same for me. Doing my knot in my tie and putting my Mont Blanc in my pocket, putting my jacket on. I was going to war. I was going to. I was the MD. That's what I was.
So you build your culture.
Yeah, exactly. And that was the look, because I had to look as smart as I could when I walked into any of those offices, because that's the standard I'm setting across the group. And what I saw, lockdown played a part of it, but I'm sure Ricardo had an impact on it as well, was they quickly kind of dropped ties all of a sudden and dropped jackets all of a sudden.
After you guys launching.
Yeah, and I thought, but they were much younger group of people. I was like, actually, you look quite scruffy.
Difficult to do, isn't it? Difficult to do.
Transition.
Yeah.
You weren't that and you weren't that. And then I noticed about 9-10 months, they went back to it. And I was like, that was the right move to me. I should have gone back to it. And that's what I respect, is when someone's gone, this is our identity, because there is enough to go around.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it. Just stick in your lane. I'm not kind of caught in motion. I think that's where the client gets a bit confused. I dress like I dress because I'm a sporty guy and I feel comfortable in sporty clothing. And because of my business now, that's how I look. Doesn't mean all the avocado agents do. Some of them will dress, in a more sort of premium fashion. There won't be any ties. There'll be the reason. But I think that's the beauty of our industry. It's now shaping more into authentic identity, and we can home in on that, and the client then uses the one that suits them. And that's a beautiful.
Yeah, that's where your marketing's so strong as well, isn't it? Like you put out, because I've seen a lot of your stuff. This is who we are. We wear the pink hoodies. We are no ties. And then the people that go, I don't like the whole suit and tie stuff and the whole stuffiness of people turning up and car salesmen and commission breath trying to sell me this, that, and the other. I want someone who's down to earth, bit like me, comes round to my house, doesn't give me the whole waffle, and that's who I deal with. And I'm sure you eradicate the people you don't want to deal with, and you only deal with the people you do want to deal with, in the most part.
Which is a good place to be.
That's the joy of the industry, isn't it? It's the joy of I said it before, running your own business. You can make the decisions of what you want to do and how you want to do. I want to segue a little bit into growth and acquisition. We talked about it a little bit off camera. Seems that's really in your mindset, growing, having by the sounds of things more locations. Talk me through a little bit about the thinking behind that, when probably quite a few people in the industry are maybe not opening new offices, or maybe not looking to grow in a market that is the normal market that we're faced with. So what are your plans, and what's your thinking behind that at the moment?
Thinking behind it is, first of all, it's hard already. Anyway, I was talking to Mark about this, my business partner, on the way up, and it's already a friend of ours, mutual friend of ours, lost his life last week, the week before. Worked for him in an agency, and he was a young man, 48, I think he was, so like way too soon. And some people look at that and they go, just life's too short, shouldn't really worry about business and trying to make it a go of it. And I looked at it as a completely different spin on it. I thought, well, it's already hard. It's already stressful. We've already got 40 plus people we need to worry about, and that's already enough. It's heavy. And so then why not just do it to as big as you can make it, because the stress is the same anyway, and you're going to have it regardless. You're already in business now. So let's just go as far as we can take it. So one, I just think, what's the point in not trying? And two, I think now we've realized the value of our business. If we ever did want to come to sell it or wind down, or what is it that we're building it for? Again, which is, we can talk about, I can't get my head around the whole self-employed model, because that, like, later, I think, I struggle to figure out what you do then next. But then if I ever do want to sell it at some point, we need a value of the company. And so the big part of the acquisition growth is lettings books and lettings businesses, because the sales are great to have, and like we've got a sales operation so we can put them in there, but the real value of the business is in lettings and mortgage services. So mortgage services, we're opening up our own mortgage services arm April as well, but the lettings books is really what we're after, or the business to keep feeding into our current operation. So at some point, me, Mark, Tracy decide we want to step away. We've got something to hand over to somebody else and a little bit of value. So I'd hate to get to the end of running this business all of that time and go, right, well, your sales operation isn't really worth anything other than the pipeline you've got, and like you got you and some helpers, and so what are we buying?
Yeah.
So
that is the hardest part of how estate agents value. I think it's unjustified personally, but I think the problem that estate agents have is most of those traditional agents over the years have built a business that's only purchasable by another estate agent.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest issue that they've got, is we've pigeonholed the purchaser of the business.
Yeah.
If the purchaser of the business was outside of a estate agency, they would value all of those businesses in a completely different way. So part of it is, can you build a business that operates without you effectively? Because then you are appealing outside of just a estate agency, but also the income streams are an issue. Because if 95% of your income, or even 80% of your income, is sales transactional pipeline, that's also a challenge for a buyer, because it's not reoccurring. Yes, the lettings book is, and I know most traditional agents would love to have a 50-50 income stream on lettings versus sales. It's hard to do that unless you've really pushed to multiple officers, or you've been I am lettings focused all the way through. That's a big part of the issue that I think the industry has, is who the buyer is. When we started Avocado, we very much said, if we do sell avocado at some point, we want the buyer to sit outside of that industry. We want it to look in a slightly different way, so that we're more appealing to a wider audience and they're potentially more valuable. The great thing with, because I love this question that you kind of asked around the self-employed and the growth side of things. But first of all, most people say getting to 3 offices is the hardest bit. And I see a lot of companies go to one very successful branch. They open a second and it kind of feeds from the master branch, the big one. 3 is then the challenge. And then often what happens when people get to 3 is they often go back to 2, or they go back to 1, or they just stay at 3 and struggle. But you're pushing past that. How have you found running 3 offices? You mentioned 3 shareholders, I think, then.
Yeah. So me and Mark own the sales business exclusively. Tracy owns part of the lettings business as well.
And do one of you base yourselves in 3 different branches?
Yeah, I mean, it's been fucking hard. Like, really hard. Like, to say it's not easy, first and foremost, to grow to more branches, because what you've just described there, Ian, right, was like, we don't really know how to run a business as agents. We know how to be good estate agents. And so you think, oh, great, well, let's just do that. And then we'll probably find some staff, and then those staff will probably be good or bad, and hopefully they're good. And if they're bad, I have to let them go. And then you just stumble through until you get to a point where you're like, oh, fuck, I need to learn how to run a business. This is not working the way that it's too many people are coming and going. We're not training people. And I think we've been really guilty of that over the last, probably the last 7 years. It's only really the last year or 2 where we've really focused on, like, guys, like, if we want to continue to grow this company, we can't just be good estate agents. We need to learn how to run a business. And so when you look at the value from somebody outside coming into the business, they don't look at the way that estate agents look at it. They look at it from a business first mentality and go, is this a business, or is this just you and some helpers? And so that's been a real eye-opening piece for us, which has now enabled us to go, because we were probably in that same boat where we're like, Free's probably comfortable, you know, one of us can go over here if there's a few days that are needed, somebody else can go over there, and we can almost be everywhere at all times if we need to be, because geographically they're really close to each other, probably within half an hour, 40 minutes drive of one another. So it's not a million miles away. So we can just pop to whichever one we need to. But we said, well, if we're going to grow, we can't, like, if there's a problem with a valuer in one office, you can't just go over to that office and value, or run the office because the manager's not, you know, because then you've got 4, 5, 6 other locations. That what if it happens there as well? So we've got to try and figure out how we run a company and not how we just run a business. But it's been, to answer the question, difficult learning curve over the last 7, 8 years to really figure out what it takes to go from, yes, you can put some houses on the market and sell them, to can you really build a company where individuals are well trained, everybody knows their roles, they all understand what the culture of the company should be like, they all understand their own personal targets, they all understand the vision of the business and where the business is going. That's been a real difficult journey. And so I see why a lot of people do go from 3 back down to 2 and just let me just settle here, because the income's good, my lifestyle's good, don't need to worry about too many more people, don't want any more stress. We're very comfortable now.
What I do like though with what you said there, Shane, which is different to where I think sometimes they do it because that seems like the right thing to do, is you expand because ego says expand, or someone else, the competitor down the road's just opened another office, so we need to open another office, or we must go into that neighbour in town because we sold 2 there last year, so obviously they love us.
There's a market.
There's a market there. Screaming it out.
But what I think is really key in what you said there is you're doing it because you know it's hard, and the goal is to make it as big as it can possibly be. Because why not?
Yeah.
You know, why not? And when you have, you know, huge moments in your life where, in your case, you know, someone that's died younger than they should have died, that's close to you, it does make you reflect on things and think, actually, which direction am I going here? You either put the throttle down, don't you, or you get out of the car because you're not in the right vehicle.
Yeah.
And it's one or the other, really, is the way you look at it. And
for me, you know, I'm not saying expansion is what everybody should do, because expansion isn't right for everybody. You know, some people have one office, a team of 6, 7, 8 people, and they love their life. Like, that's great. I've got no issues with that whatsoever. But for me, I want to do a little bit more than that. And so, like you said off camera, like, I really enjoy what I do, and whilst you're enjoying it, I think you should keep doing it. And this is what I enjoy. I don't know how you guys are from business owners, but I really love like the startup stage. That's my favorite stage of a business, of like when we're zero, we've got no one here, maybe a little bit, because like if you just go to the neighbouring town, people will know of you, but we've got no real market share here, and I want to go from nothing to something, and that for me is the most exciting part of the journey. And so
well, I mean, I absolutely love that part, and with self-employed agents, I get to do it every month because we're going through it every single month.
Is that how many you take on one a month as an average?
Yeah, I mean, we've got like 40 odd now, so you know, it is at the moment this year it seems to be 1 or 2 a month is the way it's gone for the last 6 or 7 months, and it will be for the next 3 or 4. But they're good, you know, they're good agents. But that startup process of, okay, what's your personal brand identity? What's the marketing opportunity? What's the competition doing? Is there already appetite for self-employed agents? Is there social media? Let's check all the agents. Is anyone running ads? Who's competition? That part of it's great. What's the local community like? What's the average house price? What's the average house type? You know, what's the demographic like in that area? Most of these areas that we're launching now, I've never worked in, so I don't know any of the streets, any of the stuff. So for me, it's a great fun fact finding. And that is the good thing about estate. If you do that part of it properly, you can make that business a huge success. And what have you been thinking about going into office number 4? What are the things that, I guess, maybe over the last kind of 3 branches, you've kind of gone, we won't do that again, or shit, we need to double down on that last time? Yeah,
so the 2 branches that we opened after the first one, so we opened Colchester first, me, Mark, very different when it's your own business, but me, Mark, and then we had a chap called Marcus who started the business with us. And we sort of broke even year 1. Maybe it made a slight bet, maybe. I think it was about 12 grand profit, thinking back to it now. And the next 2 offices, we lost money for probably the first 18 months, 2 years, when everything was stripped out of it. And now moving forward, we're thinking, well, we should have learned enough to not open a branch and in a year, over the course of that year, lose money. Like, we should be able to figure out now how to ensure that the business looks after itself, because you're right, that's what happens a lot of the time, is here's the first big branch, that's the cash cow for everywhere else, and like if this business needs it, then we'll just pump a little bit of money into that. And you know, there's still times where that's necessary, but we've gone into it with a completely different mindset of, this is what we thought was acceptable, 10 listings a month, and then grow it to 15, and then we'll get to now, well, we could probably start with 25. When office number 2 opened, we were like, well, if we did 8, we'd be happy with 8. But we understand sales and marketing, we understand how to generate leads, we've got all of that in mass already at the moment, and so we should be able to figure out how to generate enough leads before we open with enough stock to then exchange out on enough money, and then lettings comes in and adds all of their little bits in as well. So we've gone from look, we don't want to open up and it be a 2-year project. We want to open it up and it be an 8 to 12-month project, and then you're self-sufficient. And so the growth speed then makes it a little bit more comfortable to go to the next one and go, well, we've proved concept that we can make money in the first year, so we could just do it again and then again. But it's stopped us. The appetite sort of stopped because we're free in 8 years or 9 years this year. And now we want to go to 4, 5, 6, 7, if appropriate, as quickly as possible, knowing that we can use what we've got already and make some money and not have to be a slog and a headache for
It feels
2
like
years.
that is the push, isn't it? You get to 3 and you've built those foundations, you've got staff, and then it's kind of like you've got to drive all the way up to like 7 or 8 relatively quickly to kind of get into that frame of mind where it's okay, now I've got MD, got different roles, got lettings director, got kind of property manager, director or whatever, and you kind of got those setups. And then we found where I was before, one of the things that I used to find with us, with the culture of the traditional company I worked at, was our best staff were typically the ones that had started a estate agency with us. They weren't coming in from other brands. But obviously that takes a long time. You're not growing a plant. It takes bloody ages to grow a good branch manager or a good valuer. We're talking a decade sometimes. But one of the things that I had when we had like 10 branches was had this little team, and there was always 3 of them, and it was like that was the company trainees, was these 3, and they used to spend a different day in different offices, do different things. And when you've got 3 people together, you can quickly work out, all right, that one's going to be fucking great, that one's not going to make it. You can quickly work it out. And it meant that when someone was on holiday and Neg was on holiday, we could sub the good one in and see how they got on. And it was a real nice recruitment kind of feeder. And when you've got 10 branches, you've got the budget to play around with things like that. When you're kind of one branch, you can't just bring in 3 trainees the next week. We can do it with Avocado. When we started, we could bring 1 person in marketing in, and now it's a little bit different. We've got 5, so we can have a couple of apprentices that we kind of work through. So the scalability of going from that journey that you're about to go on is really exciting.
Yeah, well, that's the nature of business, isn't it? When you've got less resources, you need to be more resourceful, don't you? That's the start of the company is, well, we haven't got unlimited budget. We haven't got unlimited money. We haven't got unlimited staff. We haven't got unlimited... We just have what we've got. Yeah. And so we need to make the most of these resources. But that's what, I admire your stuff, Ian. Like, you clearly have now figured out a way in the funnels you're talking about earlier of like, we can generate enough leads to give you enough business. And that's ultimately business, isn't it? Sales and marketing. Everything happens in between those 2 things. Probably marketing first and sales afterwards. Can we generate enough leads in? Yes. Can we sell them? Yes. Well, then everything in between, this is how the business runs. But have we got people to work with in the first place?
Yeah.
So
You mentioned KPI. Daniel Priestley's book, Key Person of Influence, I just think a fantastic book for all estate agents to listen to. But he also has... oversubscribed as another way of looking at it. Once you've got too many leads, everything else is downstream. It's all super simple. So
but that is a good point though, the whole leads thing and the experience. I tie that back to experience because that is the way you get caught up in agency, and we've been guilty of that ourselves in the past. Is we think the answer is just more leads, when that actually just proves to be a different problem entirely, which is we've got too many people. We saw it as great. There was a period of time pre-COVID, I think it was, when it was amazing and everything was just working for us. The target was sort of 56 in the Colchester branch, 50, 60 instructions a month, and then we got to like 80 to 100. And we were like, this is wonderful. How great is this? And then we looked back over a 12-month window and we were like, that was the worst thing that could have happened to us at that time, because the whole oversubscribed concept is... When you do get oversubscribed, there is and it's really contradictory as a business owner to feel that way. You've got to make a cut-off, because if what you're really big on is that Mark, Ian, anybody who comes into this business gets the same experience, then you get too many people in, then your experience is going to fall down. And we fell into that trap really quickly of, this is great. We've got 80 instructions this month, 100 next month, and there's 180 people we've got to sell. But who's looking after all of those people? Because we've got the same amount of negotiators that we had when we were doing 50, and now we're doing double that. And so someone's going to get annoyed along the way, or more people are going to get annoyed along the way, and then the experience falls away and people start to complain, and a complaint for your business and a small business is a terrorist for your company. And so you have to just cap it at some point. But the oversubscribed concept is a great one, but it's not just leads and more we can get, then great, our business is fantastic. It's figure out your number where you can serve your people and get to that point and tell everybody else they can wait.
Yeah, exactly. And what you said, the last sentence there, tell everyone else you can wait, going back full circle to your initial client that taught a fantastic lesson of charge what you're worth and I'll pay what you're worth. When you do have oversubscribed level business, that is where it's key to go, do we reassess what we're worth here?
Yeah.
And I see it with the self-employed agents, because in the first kind of 9 months, it's just organised chaos. They are just trying to do whatever they can, not on fees, granted, not on fees, but they will do whatever they can to take any business. And especially if they've not got neighbouring avocados, it's kind of cast this massive net and then just we'll centralise it back to your core location and we'll work it through. And then when they get to year 2, year 3, year 4, they're moving, they're thinking, right, fees now, I don't charge any less than 1.5. Then it's I don't charge any less than 1.75. And I'm not touching a leasehold unless they're paying me 2.5%. It gets to that point because they know what they're worth at that point. And that is the beauty of it. You can sometimes still do the same business with the same staff, but you have to charge, and it goes back to the profit, which is a key part of world-class real estate. You know, we talk about it all the time. We don't
actually making money.
Making money.
Do you actually make money?
Because if you make money, you can do more of those magic moments where you get your guy, you know, that cigar box, and you can do more with staff.
Doing those magic moments makes you more money in the end.
Of course it does.
You know, like he is an ambassador for the business. I bumped into him, actually. We bumped into him in London last year. And this was 7 years ago. The initial valuation went ahead. And he saw us, was in Bishopsgate, having a drink, come over and he's like, guys, how you doing? I've kept an eye on your Facebook and how things are going. Bought us a bottle of champagne. There was 3 of us out having a meeting. He said, I just want to give you a bottle of champagne, enjoy your time in London, and those relationships last forever.
Have you heard about Matt Steinwade's lemons story?
Yeah. What about just walking off the cliff and that story?
No, the lemons for lemonade.
No, I haven't.
So there's a really famous story, obviously very famous Australian real estate, and he talked about how he won a listing on the back of how she was frustrated that her sister hadn't bought lemons and they were supposed to make lemonade. So when he came out of the appointment, he made a call and they got some lemons. That story about the cigar box is the UK version of that, in my opinion, and that's what we'll talk about when we're promoting this podcast, because I think that is a fabulous way of going above and beyond, which goes right back to your answer to world-class real estate, exceeding what people expect. And I've not heard that. You know, we'll be 360 episodes in. I've not heard anyone do anything like that. I don't think so in these rooms having these chats. So massive kudos to you. I thought this would be a real chat about agency, and it's really deviated more into business ownership, because obviously the path that you're on. I can still tell that you're really passionate about sitting in people's lounge and doing deals, as the conversation that we had before we sat down. But how have you found the process of working in the business versus working on the business? You've mentioned culture, you've mentioned plans, and obviously acquisition. How has that, transformation worked for you? Has that been difficult?
Yeah, it has been really difficult, because I actually don't do any of the value in now. I don't sit in the lounge anymore, and that's what we did to build the business. And giving that up, I thought, well, that's going to be really difficult, because no one's going to do it as good as me. And then, it's not their business. So of course, they're not going to be as passionate about it, and people aren't going to care. And they do, like in the end, they do. They all care, because they have their own standards for themselves. Yeah. The right people just have their own standards. And so coming out of that has been really tricky, because you get into that messy middle of like, well, what do I do? Like, what value do I add to the business? And if I'm not, I think we all get it as business owners, entrepreneurs. You have that sort of that stillness guilt. Like, if I'm still for a day, or I spend an afternoon in the gym, and I'm like, well, I mean, I can, because everything else is running, but I don't want anyone to know I'm here. I don't want anyone to ring me and go, where are you? I'm working. That's been really difficult to sort of draw the lines and understand, but like, we have clear defined roles in the company now. And my seat is just defined as the visionary of the business. And so I steer the ship. I tell everybody where we need to go. This is the culture of the company. Here's the big ideas. Most of them are shit. Some of them are okay. And a few of them are really good. And that's what we'll do. And that's my role within the business. Is the culture right? Are the teams right? Are we going in the right direction? Do I have a pulse on the changes of the market and the industry? And if I do, and I'm doing my job well, we'll continue to grow and grow in the right ways. And if I don't, then somebody else should be doing my job role, and I'll go back to valuing and sitting in people's lounges and winning business. But it was really, really hard at the start, giving that up, because you just, this ego, isn't it? You know, like
The gym thing cracks me out because a couple of months ago, there's a guy called Ryan, one of the partners, but we both worked at the previous company together. So in a roundabout way, I worked with Ryan for probably 12 years now. But it was about maybe 2:45, something like that, on a Wednesday. And I'm in the gym. I go to the village gym nearby us. And I was in the gym, and I looked over, and he was in the gym, and we clocked eyes with each other. We both shit ourselves. It was like that moment where we're like, should you be there? Should I be here? And then we just started laughing because we're like, well, we're both running our own business. Literally, we could do what the hell we want, you know, in that moment. And we both just both went white and then just started laughing. And it was actually a really cool moment. What you're talking about with staff there is a really, really good point. And I think it's something that there's a guy, what is his name? Phil Graham. There's a guy called Phil Graham, and he's ex-Mr. Universe, Irish guy, Northern Irish guy, and he's now got an unbelievable training business for personal trainers. So if you see any of the like digital Instagram personal trainers that sell kind of online PT courses, he's the guy that built that.
Right.
And he came and did a presentation to us in one of my masterminds that I was in previously. And I worked it out, and I was like, okay, well, he's charging 1,200 quid a month, and he's got this amount of clients. I was like, the guy's pulling in like 650 grand a month in this training business. So it's like, okay, it's a proper business. And then afterwards, we sat down and spoke to him, and it was about 3.5 years ago this was. And I said, I've got this real quandary at the moment with my marketing part of the job. We've got, I'm no longer doing the estate agency side of things anymore. I've stepped away from that, but I'm full-time the marketing guy, but I'm also bringing agents in. So I'm kind of the recruity growth guy. We're also building the lettings business as well. So we're kind of making sure that works. There's a lot of plates to juggle. And I know that I probably should recruit a marketing person, but I don't want to, because I've built this brand. It's my identity. No one's going to do it as good as I can do it, exactly as you just said.
Yeah.
And I said, also, you know, the cost of bringing that extra 3, 4, 5 grand a month on you know, the baseline, I just couldn't comprehend doing it. And he rephrased it to me, and he said, well, he ran through all my figures. He's like, well, look, the money's there. You can do that. It's not a problem. You are a business owner, you've taken the risk, you've done all of these things. This is an investment in your time. It's a reward. Every time you recruit a good member of staff, give yourself a pat on the back and reward yourself for bringing someone good into your business and allowing you to now focus on something else that you want to do more of. Because as the business owner, that's what you should be doing.
Absolutely.
And I was like, that was a really cool way that he went, it's not a cost, it's an investment in getting your time back to do more of what you actually want to do.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of taking the risk to start a business. We should be able to do that. And it was quite a nice way that you put it. And I've also heard, I think Stephen Bartlett say, I'm sure it's Stephen Bartlett has said, yes, as the business owner, we always look and go, no one's going to do it as good as you. And he turned around to someone and said, some will do it better.
Some will do it better. Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it.
When you get really good at it, that's when you start to build people who are better than you.
Yeah.
And the one thing I think I probably do envy from the self-employed model, and I know you've both got sort of elements of that, is like the individual's got a really, they've got a really like a sort of niche bespoke period of time where they can really personalize and individualize the experience for the person that they're dealing with. And I think that's a real key win in agency, and why self-employed is so booming and successful as it is, and people like it, public like it out on the road, is because it feels like a more personal experience, because you guys make it feel that way. And so kudos to you, because I think that really is that's the world that we live in now, isn't it? You know, like when we were younger, you'd go to McDonald's and you'd order a Big Mac and you'd go, thanks, and you'd take the gherkins out yourself. And then now you would go in, and my kids would go, I want a cheeseburger, but I don't want any pickles in there, I don't want any tomatoes, in fact I don't want any cheese, can you just give me the button? It's the individualization is the expectation of the client, and you guys get to do that so hand-to-hand combat, because it's like, you deal with me, I am the business, and I will look after you in a way that you want to be looked after. And I think if we could take more of that from the self-employed model and really look after people they want to be looked after in the way they want to be looked after, agency will start to stop being close to traffic wardens and actually start to be a respectable
I mean, we all saw the online rise, didn't we? We all saw Purple Bricks knock onto the scene, and then we've seen Strike and all the other ones that knocked around, and we had this, I think it was called Red Homes or something like that, around by us, some franchise thing that's charged like 0.25%. We've seen all of those happen, but what we did see is with Purple Bricks, I always look at it and go, well, we saw some things that could have worked there. Like they could have got that right, and at one point they were really getting it right. And they obviously introduced self-employed at one point. Turns out illegally, but they did introduce self-employed. But they did get the marketing, the digital, the tech side of things absolutely spot on. They had everyone downloading their app.
Yeah,
they had a lot of automation going on. They got a lot of stuff really spot on. Almost there. And I think with self-employed, for really good traditional estate agency business owners, because we're still bucketing people, there's some self-employed that are really, really good, and there's some that are really just corporate nonsense, chop, off it goes type stuff. But I think we can all learn off each other in what does exceptional look like.
Absolutely.
And then you bring it into your version of that and you make it authentically you. And that's a really nice way to kind of summarize the whole episode, because we meet all sorts of different guests and everyone does different stuff. But it's always nice to hear kind of, when you go back full circle, it kind of always comes back to the people. Ultimately the people. And that's the beauty of estate agency, and that bit will never change regardless of whether it's an AI operating system or whether it's something else. It will always be down to the people to make the business great. So really enjoyed the conversation, and cheers for coming on.
Thanks for having me.